I've had plenty of my students come to me over the years and ask me about how to deal with anxiety and and how to deal with the nerves before tournaments. I'm sure that you are probably aware of this, that a lot of times guys, when they come into the gym, they are non-athletes. Jiu-jitsu, because of the power of jiu-jitsu, right? You don't have to be a star athlete to be good at this stuff. It helps, but you don't have to be. And so we get a lot of guys that were either not athletes before, or if they were athletes, they were in team sports instead of like one-on-one sports like wrestling. If you're a wrestler, you're used to this stuff. And so I'm doing this video to give you some tips to how to deal with the sort of anxiety and the nervousness that comes from competing in tournaments and that sort of thing. So the first one is going to be simply accept the anxiety as a part of it. You don't want it to be gone. And that's one of the things that some of my students have asked me before. They said, man, how can I get rid of this anxiety? I don't want to feel this way. Well, that's part of the competition, right? You got to feel a little anxious. When your body's a little bit nervous, it puts itself into a sort of a heightened state of awareness. You're a little bit more focused. You're a little stronger in some cases, right? You're just able to do things a little bit better than what you do normally in most cases. And this is kind of that performance edge. Now, until you get used to dealing with the anxiety, it might feel like it's the opposite. A lot of times you will get so nervous and so freaked out that you get out there and you feel exhausted after a minute or two. So you got to bring that down. But understand that the anxiety is all here. It's all in your body. It's not real, right? Your body just doesn't deal with stress very well. It basically says anytime stress comes in, we freak out. And it doesn't sort of differentiate between like what's real stress and what's perceived stress. So whether you're being chased by a wild animal or you are getting ready for a jiu-jitsu tournament, your body takes in the stress and deals with it essentially the same way. So the best thing to understand is that it's just all in your head, on your body, and that you want it, and that if we channel it correctly, it can be very beneficial to us. So getting into the channeling, and step number 2 is going to be focus on yourself. So a lot of times when you're in that sort of weird state before a competition, your mind's in this funky state, it's really easy to go down sort of this negative rabbit hole in your brain. A lot of times you'll start to think about, well, what if he does this? Or what if the competitor chokes me out? Or what if I do this? And you go down this negative spiral and you'll end up getting yourself super, super freaked out. So you want to make sure that you focus on yourself. And this is a tip I really stress to my fighters. If you guys have ever fought MMA before, it's a crazy nerve-wracking experience, especially for the first couple of fights, because you're getting locked into a cage, into a ring with someone, and then you're going to do bodily harm to one another. And so a lot of times, especially in the beginning, I'll have fighters that'll say, man, I can't sleep at night. I'm so just all the time, I'm just tense and wound up. And the tip that I give them, and the one that seems to help the most, and I give this to my jiu-jitsu competitors as well, is to focus on yourself. So when you feel that anxiousness or that energy, right, you need to channel that. And so instead of letting your body and your mind go down that sort of that negative spiral, start to focus on what you're going to do. Think about your sweeps, think about your takedowns, think about your chokes, your submissions, whatever you're going to do in the match, whatever you've been working on leading up to this tournament, think about that stuff. And this way, when you get out there, that's been going through your head the whole time instead of negative thoughts. And that'll also help kind of calm you down and bring you down a little bit so that you can actually, use the anxiousness that you have beneficially. Third is going to be music. So music, to me, again, everybody has their own way of going about it. Some guys listen to crazy hard stuff and some guys don't. Some guys listen to like reggae and stuff like that, whatever. I mean, it's just find the music that works for you. Me personally, the way that I like to do it is, and this started from fighting, I found that if I was listening to music that pumped me up, right? Like something hard or something that was gonna get me like ready to go. If I listened to that the whole time, I would get really, really exhausted when it was time to actually compete. I would be tense in my shoulders the whole time and stuff like that. So what I do now, especially when I was fighting, I would listen to music. Like a lot of times it was like classical music, something to sort of bring me down and just keep me even. And then once it was time to actually get ready for the fight, once it was time to get warmed up, I would listen to something that would pump me up. And this sort of helped conserve my energy and keep me relaxed during that waiting phase. Because the worst part of competing is simply waiting. If you could go to the MMA fight or the competition and simply step on the mat, that would be perfect, right? But instead you have to sit around and wait and wait and wait. So that's the rough part. So while you're waiting, try to keep yourself relaxed. And on sort of that waiting topic, if you're new to competition, don't go and stand up and watch your buddies compete and stand up and watch all the matches. Go sit down, go chill somewhere, go relax somewhere. Try to stay as relaxed as possible, because if you're up standing around, and I've seen it happen so many times, if you're up standing around and watching all the matches and getting into them and everything else, by the time it's time for you to compete, right? You're gonna be exhausted because you've just expended all this energy, been up here with all the adrenaline pumping and everything else. So just go relax. Go find something, just to chill you out. And I know it's hard to do in a venue sometimes because there's not a lot of space, but just find some place where you can chill. All right, so the last tip that I'll give you is to try to give your body some sort of dose of that stress, right? If you can, basically give your body little bits of that stress from periodically, then it'll help sort of desensitize you to it, or at least help you learn how to deal with it. Some ways you can do this, or at least ways that I like to sort of use with my students, one is we'll do some mock tournaments. And it's so funny, and maybe you're not following, but I can take two students that have rolled together day in, day out for years, right? And then the minute I say, all right guys, we're rolling for points, for a time limit, and there is a winner, and then there is a loser to this match, it instantly changes everything. They get stressed out, they get going, and the roll takes on a different turn than it normally would. Okay, and especially if you have your guys watching and you do like a little mock tournament, man, it definitely works. So that'll help kind of add a little stress to it. So if you can get together with your buddies on open mat, or even ask your instructor, say, hey, can we do like a little mock tournament in the gym? That'll help kind of like give you a little dose of that stress. Another thing you can do is go to another gym or invite some people in to train and just train with some different bodies periodically. And again, this kind of goes back to a competition. What is a competition? What is a tournament? It's a test. It's simply a test to sort of give you some feedback. One, on how good are you doing? How does your style work against other people that don't know your style? And it can be a good thing and a bad thing. You can get good feedback and bad feedback, and it lets you come back to the gym and kind of know where you stand. It's also a good motivator because if you're getting ready for a tournament, you typically stay a little bit more disciplined on the diet and the training and everything else. But going back to what I was saying, when you go train with another guy at another gym, it gives you that same sort of feedback because a lot of times you're going to roll with someone maybe you haven't rolled with that much. It allows you to see how your style works against people that don't know what you're doing, because if you're in the gym, typically people understand what you're doing, right? They kind of know, okay, well, John, he's a X-guard guy, so they're going to be a little bit more on edge. Well, if you go to the other gym, they may not know that, and then all of a sudden, all of your moves that don't normally work at the other gym are working perfectly, or maybe they're not. So again, it allows you to get some feedback and lets you come back to your gym, talk to your instructor, get some tips, and kind of go from there. And at the same time, you're getting that little dose of stress that'll help you deal with it when it comes time to compete. So guys, I hope these tips are helpful to you. Again, if you're one of my students competing, then you can always talk to me. But again, talk to your instructor for tips as well. And just understand that the stress is not a bad thing, the anxiety is not a bad thing, that you need it, that it puts you in a better state of mind and gives you that edge that you need for performance. But we just have to channel it a little bit, right? So I'm done. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. And again, I hope these tips are helpful to you.